right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. It is I, the one, the only, Fast Eddie Fear, here again in the luxurious SuperDraft offices in beautiful Salem, New Hampshire. Slate upon the table. This reminds me a lot of the. Are you familiar with the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock?
I'm not.
It's a poem by T.S. Eliot that says, "Let us go then, you and I, where the evening is spread out across the sky like a patient etherized upon a table." There you go. I, tonight, that patient am. With me, as always, is the great Kwisenberg DFS, Zach Graham. How you feeling tonight, Zach?
I'm doing well. I think it's a fun slate. Obviously, some early news that we got there in the last hour, and some news we're still waiting on. In particularly, in my opinion, Damian Lillard, and then we've got Kevin Porter Jr. and some other stuff to get into. So a lot to talk about, and excited to get into it, Eddie.
This is, someone just said, nice basement. Not actually my basement. Don't get me wrong. I would make my basement look like a conference room. Convince my next job or something that I had gainful employment. I like where your head's at, but not actually a basement. There's windows here, and frequently I smoke cigarettes, and it's not an actual boardroom. There he is. We got TS on T.S. Eliot. There you go. It's been way too long since we had T.S. Eliot on the basketball stream. We got some. I think I like the Heat news because it gives us some more plays that I think we feel good about. I think it'll be interesting to see how we end up with Heat and Mavericks weighted now in the ownership. It was feeling pretty chalky 4-11 game slate. There was a whole lot of Mavs plus Cavs plus the Me Too, Chimezie Metu movement. And collectively, there was a lot of those guys, and then okay, what couple studs do you want to throw on top of some of the excellent value? The Heat opening up, I think, distributes that ownership a little bit. It gives us a slightly better slate. So where would you like to start, my friend? We can talk about Dallas a little bit. You and I, we can talk about my fighting back your rating of under 8 minutes in the range, and me yanking him down to a 9 after a minute. Yep. There we can. Where do you want to go?
Yeah, let's start Mavs, Suns, and then let's go to that Heat game. I think two of the hotter topics right now, absent the other news that we're waiting on. So obviously Luka Doncic out for the Mavericks, and some very modestly priced plays left over. Specifically on DraftKings, you're looking at good old Tingus Pingus there at 7-4. Only power forward eligible now. Apparently not considered a center on DraftKings.
Same as Chimezie Metu. Former Spur Chimezie Metu, I might say, also power forward only.
There you go. Former Austin Spur as well is where I saw the most Metu. But then Jalen Brunson, who obviously kind of historically has done well when Luka has been out. He's at 5.7. And then another guy that I'm really high on, Tim Hardaway Jr. Another guy we were kind of conversing on in the last 10 to 20 minutes. And you talking about him maybe getting the Mccall Bridges treatment on defense. So pick a player. Where do you want to start with the Mavs?
I mean, for me, I'm hoping now this news brings Jalen Brunson back down to a more tolerable level of ownership, and some of it gets, bled off by bits of some of the Heat guards will get ownership, most notably Tyler Hero, and then other guys where his ownership pulls back to the 50% range. In which case, I do think that's where I would end up going over. Most ranking systems and projections that I've seen today rank 3 Mavs especially high, those being Brunson, Porzingis, and Tim Hardaway Jr. Brunson ends up being the favorite of mine for a number of reasons. First of all, the Suns defensive system is going to do an excellent job in general against Pingus, I think. And so I guess the easiest one would be that, and I do expect Tim Hardaway Jr. to see the most of Mccall Bridges, who has done a good job against him in the past. I actually watched some of that earlier today. And Brunson also, I think more importantly to me, has always been the one who has really stepped his shit up when Luka is out. There was a while we would be like, when Luka's out, like we've had Luka's out, I have no idea how many times over the last few years, you and I really feel like Brunson is the one who's disappointed us the least. It has happened at least once that I can remember, maybe twice, but we're talking about a sample size of 11, 12, 13 games. I feel like Tim Hardaway gets there 40% of the time, and Kristaps gets there 50% of the time, and Brunson gets there like 85% of the time. I will jump into some more research because I haven't had time to do more on-offs as we were discussing this, but for that reason, and I do think that is the odds in which they're owned. I think Jalen Brunson, I had this morning at a first round being like 60% owned. Mm-hmm. I think that's going to come down a little bit now, but I'll still go with over half. So you're going to get like 53% Jalen Brunson. I think we can worry about a blowout here. I think this is an 8 or 9 point game. This is a Suns team that has been playing extremely well. And
8.5 right now.
8.5. Mm-hmm. And a Dallas team that certainly is inconsistent with its production. So I don't think it's more likely than not. But I do think I'm a little more inclined to Heat than Dallas versus the field. Like if I had to be over on one of these Dallas guys, I think the Dallas guy of whom I am the most over is probably Brunson. I feel most comfortable with that. He's certainly the hardest one to get over the field on, but I think Brunson would be my favorite of them. And again, after those three, it gets a little dicey. Like you can Reggie Bullock, you can Dorian Finney-Smith, you can Dwight Powell. There are other places you can go there, but it is not a particularly great matchup. So for Dallas, I think I end up playing something like 75% Brunson to get over the field if I'm playing 150 lineups tonight, and end up under the field on Tengus and under the field on Tim Hardaway Jr. I probably think I think Tengus is going to be about 30% and THJ is going to be about the same, maybe a touch higher.
So right now, Kyle's got a little bit lower than your estimates. So I guess in my experience, the truth is probably going to end up somewhere in the middle. He's got Brunson at 43, which I think is a touch low as well. Tim Hardaway at 26 and Tingus Pingus at 22.
Yeah, I think I'd have Tingus Pingus and Tim Hardaway both like 8% higher than he does. Obviously, we're going to lose some of that, but there's wing spots. Even Hero, we're going to take some of those spots, so that's a bit relevant. But I might have them a little high. But I would think both those guys will be a little higher than that. So maybe 8% higher is a bit much by me. But I would say all three of those guys are probably about 8% higher than I think he has them. So, maybe I'm overestimating it a little bit. But what do you think about coming back from the Phoenix side? Obviously, you and I had an interesting colloquy about Mr. DeAndre Ayton and his ability here.
Yeah, I just think at this point he is going to produce going forward at a higher rate, kind of that we saw through the playoffs. Part of that was obviously the elevated minutes when you get to the postseason, but in the limited sample, only 7 games that he's appeared in so far this year, the rates are a tad bit higher than they were last year. And I love this matchup because Dallas is never going to be small. Tingus Pingus is kind of the smallest person that's always going to be on the court with the depth chart of Dwight Powell, Willie Cauley-Stein, Boban, even Moses Brown there. So with Frank Kaminsky out, I just thought that the minutes would be extremely secure. But then what you told me that you heard Monty Williams talking about, he played Ayton too much last game, and I hadn't seen those comments. So that would
too many minutes. I'll get a direct quote if you want. He said something that made me think. I have, counting the possibility of blowout, I have DeAndre Ayton at 29.5 minutes.
Okay. I was going to say, like, if 33 is too many minutes, then that scares me. I still think at 29, 30 minutes, he can definitely put up a score and get on top of this 6-2 price tag. But, if he's not going to play, if the ceiling for minutes is 30.
I don't think the ceiling for minutes is 30 because the coach had an intention to play him less the other day and then played him much more. So, they're not on a back-to-back. There's plenty of teams that play. Actually, the only team that played yesterday was Brooklyn, but there are, I want to say, 4 teams who play again tomorrow. Let me get my list up and make sure.
Sure. And Brooklyn. as an aside, everybody watching that game knows Brooklyn only played 3 quarters.
That's a good point. So they shouldn't be super tired. It'll be interesting to see if they do give. I would think Durant would be the one who would catch a rest here if they were going to give someone a rest, which would make things interesting. But the Wizards, the Heat, the Timberwolves, and the Cavs do play again tomorrow. But that Heat thing is really relevant. That's the thing that has me most worried about the Heat. They're also in a situation where they certainly have the ability to easily win their matchup. And they're playing again tomorrow, and they have a number of people with some level of injury. So worst one to have concern about the Miami Heat players. I think that would be due to, again, a potential blowout, and they play again tomorrow. So they're going to yank some guys the hell out of there early. They'd have no issue going to their bench. But anyone else on Phoenix? I have DeAndre Ayton as the only Phoenix player who I have vaguely highly rated. My next is actually McCall Bridges. You can play Devin Booker. But 9K is not a great price tag for him, but he would be smattered throughout my lineups. You can run out Jay Crowder, who's, an interesting piece of fill you can always play. Cam Johnson is GPP if you want to see what he can get you in, the 23 minutes he's projected for, I think. So,
and if you think this game blows out, then I think Cameron Payne comes into play, and especially obviously on the late slate with these 2 games that tip off at 10 Eastern. You can get into McCall Bridges, obviously Devin Booker, as you mentioned, Cam Payne, and I think JaVale McGee at 4-1 on the late slate would be viable with how big Dallas runs.
Absolutely. Nope, that's fine.
So let's talk that Miami game, obviously with Bam taking a seat again, Kyle Lowry getting the rest day, and the Pelicans coming to town. Right now, I have Jimmy at a 9. I think most people would rank him at a 10. I just, with that ankle, and I always see I don't know. I think it's a personal bias. So I have no issue if we want to bump him up to a 10. But I always worry about the ceiling with him, especially in a game where the Pelicans have been struggling. I know that Miami's without Bam, without Lowry, but he's not exactly cheap. I guess when you compare, you're saving 3,000 off Giannis and 2,000 off guys like the Brooklyn guys, etc. But he just doesn't get me as excited as it seems like everybody else is. I think I would personally rather with those other 2 guys out. Obviously, I profess my love for Dedmon at 4K. In the ranks in the chat already. I think I'd rather take the savings with Harrow.
Well, Hero's going to be higher owned. So here's what I think you're going to get. You're going to get Tyler Hero in the mid-30s and Jimmy Butler in the mid-20s. I think Jimmy's consistent swath of I don't want to underestimate how much I like Jimmy in this matchup without Kyle Lowry. I do think there is a 70-point ceiling. But they play again tomorrow. Would not shock me if this game blows out. They're already sitting a couple guys, which makes a number of coaches, including Spo, a little more likely to yank. I was going to say yank at halftime, which sounds a little awkward. So phrasing, which makes some number of coaches, including Spo, more likely to just be like, okay, I changed my mind. I'm going to give this guy a half of rest. That does happen. It's not likely, but it's not 0%. It's 10% if it gets out of hand one way or the other. So there's just it 10 to me portrays either an amount of certitude or being low, more projected lower owned. And I think he's owned about appropriately or maybe a little low. I think I would probably give him the 10, but not so much that I'm going to reach in there and overrule your 9. It's a very borderline case for me. We can talk for the matchup a little bit if you want, but it's interesting how it affects the Pels more for me. That's the team I'm thinking about more at the moment. But
sure.
Yeah, Jimmy projects for 50 for me right now. I think I've got him at 49 and a quarter. That's very good for 9,400. Yeah. There is a lot of risk going on. I think he only ends up owned in the mid-20s. That's probably too low. I think I end up over the field on Brunson and the Heat, under the field on KP and Tim Hardaway Jr. if I'm building out a lot of lineups right now. Is where I think I end up. That presuming my guess numbers on the field are about right, where I think Hero lands at about 35. I think I'd like a little more. Butler lands at about 25. I think I'd like a little more. It'll be interesting to see how much Deadman we hit, how much Duncan Robinson. I think like Duncan Robinson, like he's up to 5K now. We don't have super value Duncan Robinson anymore. But there's certainly, ways in his 30 odd minutes he can get up there.
So a couple funny comments. Doug Dubs, JJ Frick, two of our regulars here in the FTN NBA Discord said, Eddie, Doug has seen Spo's wife. He won't need to do that. And JJ Frick, who happy birthday.
That man, plus he's a video coordinator, so he's got.
Yeah, and JJ Frick says he wish he could get yanked at halftime. I also posted the SuperDraft contest that you and I are going to participate in tonight. It's the FTN NBA Discord subscriber listener league, whatever you want to call it. And what it is it's free to enter. We've got 50 spots in there. 2 of them are taken by you and myself. And if you finish in the top 3, you're going to win a ticket to Thursday's main GPP on SuperDraft. And you can win an additional $1 ticket if you finish above both Eddie and myself.
I get to play. I can really make a lineup. That's one part of the rules there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everybody who's on SuperDraft, get in there. And if you're not on SuperDraft, something we didn't say at the top. Live with Fast Eddie Fury is always presented by SuperDraft Daily Fantasy. You haven't played over there yet. You can sign up at superdraft.io. When you do, you use the promo code FTN. Eddie, in the Lion's Den there. Promo code FTN. Deposits of $100 or more are going to get you $100 in bonus funds. So if you haven't signed up yet, I know a lot of the FTN subscribers have, but if you haven't, I don't know what you're waiting for. Get in there, get some free tickets by winning this free contest tonight. So Eddie, you were talking about the Pelicans and kind of being interested in breaking down that side. What caught my eye upon Brandon Ingram's return 2 games ago, was the massive usage that he has now stepped into. And we got news about 10 minutes ago that his minutes limit is removed. 36% usage in his 29 minutes against Memphis in his return on the 13th. And 2 nights ago, 43% usage in his 32 minutes against Washington. Tough matchup against Miami, obviously, getting a little bit easier with Lowry and Bam Adebayo out. But any interest in him now? I mean, Jonas Valanciunas also priced for Ingram to be out, so I'm somewhat off him on the salary sites. Still carrying a 1.2x multiplier on SuperDraft, though. What's tickling your fancy from New Orleans?
No one is terribly brilliant. I think the player I like most in GPPs would be Nickeil Alexander-Walker. He's getting very real time, and Miami does everything very well, except they give up gigantic buckets of 3-pointers at this point. Way too many of them are open, and if you're looking at someone to achieve some sort of supernumerary upside, I actually like NAW probably is my biggest GPP guy. Josh Hart is the guy who projects the best for me, but that's still not terribly well. So I expect this guy to score a lot of fantasy points. I don't think anyone on the Pellies gets there for me. I think you can go back to Ingram. The price hasn't gotten crazy yet. He's at 8,600. The team is obviously garbage. My brother's going to put up some numbers there, but I don't. He does not project well compared to, say, next to Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler literally projects for like 49.25 for me for $800 more, and Brandon Ingram projects for 40 on the note. So. For me, due to the matchup, I think if I was going to put someone in a GPP, if I had a lot of heat and I wanted to run it back with somebody, I think I would actually run Nickeil Alexander-Walker as my one guy here.
Sure, I don't hate that at all. I'm a big NAW fan. For real life basketball, and the price, as you mentioned, 5.8 on DK.
They do a magnificent job systemically. So it doesn't actually change that much with Deadman in there. Instead of Bam actually roams a little better and a little bit more of just not letting anyone ever get into the paint. But the side amount of that is, I think I don't have my stats right here, but I believe the greatest percentage of shots taken that are 3-pointers in the NBA is actually against Miami. like almost half the shots taken against them are threes. So something to think about when you build lineups again.
I mean, keeping the ball out of the paint.
Yeah.
Well,
which is good. And they don't; those threes are not always the most quality shots. The percentage of them made is perfectly normal, and that with some excellent rim defense allows them to rebound much better than they should be able to frequently with their standard personnel, and keep other teams' effective field goal percentage down. And it works out as a package, but if someone's going to spike a number against them, it's going to be behind shooting 9 for 13 from 3 or something.
Mm-hmm. Let's meander to another 7:30 tip-off here. Cleveland and Brooklyn. Obviously, Brooklyn on that back-to-back after getting blown out by the Warriors last night. So those guys didn't play full minutes. And then on the other side, Cleveland off to a scalding hot start this season compared to preseason expectations. But now maybe the stock's starting to trend down with Evan Mobley out for multiple
Everyone
weeks.
keeps getting the hell hurt. Like, what they is really impressive considering how many people got, like, if you'd have said, okay, we are, whatever the fuck the number is, 15 games into the season, and the Cavs have lost this many games of this many players, what do you think the record is? I'd be like, they might have won a game. I'd be like 1.5 over/under on wins. Mm-hmm. They've done extremely well, but they are 10-point dogs in Brooklyn tonight.
Yeah, so, I mean, you look on DraftKings, though, the highest priced player is 6'5" Darius Garland, Ricky Rubio 100 cheaper, and then you're really getting into the weeds with, in terms of names, right? Like Kevin Love's coming back. He's going to be on a minutes limit. I don't think we've gotten specific numbers on that, but I would be surprised if he plays more than 22 to 24. I think 24 would be his high on the season. But then you got Cedi Osman.
I have him projected at 22. So
okay. Cedi Osman coming off a massive game that did some of our subscribers well 2 nights ago. 10 for 17, not the shooting that we can count on every night, but I think the minutes will be extremely solid tonight. And a similar story for a guy like Isaac Okoro. And you want to talk about solid minutes, Dean Wade is probably going to play a ton, but Eddie, on this slate, I don't think I can get to Dean Wade with any sort of volume.
Well, all right. Like, he is playing some center.
Mm-hmm.
That makes everyone in the NBA pretty much. There's a couple exceptions. He's not one of them to my knowledge, where the further down you play, the more fantasy points you score. That applies to Dean Wade as well. He's only 3,200. He's going to be the 4th highest owned guy on his own team. And you don't need things to go crazy. Like, if you think Dean Wade is going to play 34 minutes, including 14 at center, I'm just saying things don't need to go amazing for him to be really good. I have him projected for 33 minutes and 21.25 fantasy points. That's not good. Mm-hmm. But he would play in a blowout. Like, if you want my arguments for Okoro or Wade over Cedi, I think they're both playing in the blowout, and Cedi is very possibly not, though he may have to. The nice things about Cedi is they're going to play him at the 3 and the 4. So I think his time is like Cedi. There's always been, especially this year, a bit of a how much time are they going to really give this guy? Mm-hmm. But he can actually shoot and get his own shot, and actually has a little bit of a handle and some decent moves, and can just put up buckets by himself if shit breaks down. Brooklyn's defense has been pretty good. I got to be honest, like better than I expected it to be this year. I've watched probably half their games. I've been generally impressed by them. So I think there is a chance they get absolutely smacked here. But, as far as the ownership goes, I think you have like 20. I'm curious what Kyle's numbers are. I'll go with ownership guesses on Cavs. I'll go with 24% Cedi Osman.
23.69. Very nice.
That's hilarious. I didn't look. So, that doesn't mean that's very similar. Nice. We can talk about it in an hour. For the moment, you and I have about the same prognostication. Dean Wade, 9?
15.
15. Okay. So you look there. I don't know if I necessarily want it. Isaac Okoro, this is the one I think I'm really going to like 8.
I got to scroll for that one.
Yeah.
It's going to be sub 9. Let's see. Yeah, he's got him at 6. Yeah.
Yeah. And those guys don't project massively differently from each other. Like Chetty does have the upside, that much is very much clear. But it's so let's see. First of all, I would say in the event that Kevin Durant or this 7:30 game, right?
Yes, sir.
I see. Do we have net starters yet? Let me catch up on my news.
Not that I've seen, but if I missed that, somebody please throw that into the Discord chat.
Because I honestly think there's a very good chance that they rest somebody.
I mean, you talk about somebody like LaMarcus Aldridge who got a mysterious first half rest yesterday.
Well, that's just like worst matchup possible. Like him against the Warriors is going to be really, really tough. Like I wasn't shocked by that. Like there's
it was tough without him too.
Well, yeah, so I'm not apparently not playing it was not the answer either. It's a fair point. There were a lot of ass whoopings yesterday.
Yeah.
Also Sunday. I checked it on football on Sunday, and at one point I'm like, there were 3 games going that were 43-7, 43-3, and 38-7 or something. Like, holy ass kickings that was in Boston.
Yeah.
And well, let's see how the game is going. So well, let me project this out. I just really wish we had that lineup because I'm really not surprised if they take I sit here. Like, especially with Jared Allen now, this Cleveland defense is going to be bad. Like, really bad. So if you get, like, just Harden, like, we're going to have to come back to the Nets, is I guess what I'm saying there. I don't think you go to who's going to get the minutes, Denzel Valentine or Dylan Windler now, which is going to be a thing.
Well, who do you think, like, say, Brooklyn just runs them off the court by the end of the third quarter?
Sure.
Who do you think is getting the closing run? What's your 5? I mean, I think it's probably Valentine, Windler, Ed Davis probably gets out there. Dean Wade probably stays out there with.
I don't think it's Ed Davis. I don't think that's the 35-year-old out there. I can go look at. We can find the last Cleveland blowout and check, and I will happily do that in a second. But
I actually think somebody posted it in chat, so I can scroll up.
Okay, it's Taco at center. Like it's going to be Taco Stevens.
Guess what? It was Ed Davis at the 4, Taco at the 5. It was Kevin Pangos at the 1, Valentine, Windler on the wings.
Pangos, Valentine, Windler would have got. So Okoro didn't even make it. That's really interesting.
Although he might have been out still.
He may have been out. Yeah, we're going to check and see if he was actually even active. Yeah, I would have guessed before you gave me the answer. I can't believe Ed Davis. I would have said Fall, Stevens, Okoro, Pangos, and okay, my phone is making noises. Yeah, and Denzel Valentine at the 2 or the 3. That makes sense. Yeah, Valentine, Windler, something like that. Okay. So see if Okoro was available in that game. Like the Cavs have made part of their mission this year to make Isaac Okoro a better offensive player. And
Okoro was active, says Alan. Sorry, I missed that, Alan. I asked him after he had already answered you.
Appreciate it. Interesting. He's one of their players they want to develop. He's one of the guys that, like, if you just watch a lot, again, I'm from Cleveland, so I'm from Ohio, rather. I see a lot of the local radio, and they talk about him a fair amount. And he's one of the guys where the coaches are kind of like, yeah, we're trying to develop him into more of an offensive player, ability to distribute a little better, et cetera, et cetera. His name comes up a non-zero amount. So, that to me more applies in the fact that in a game in Brooklyn, they can't expect to win anyway. We're just going to get more games where he just gets his numbers called a little bit more. But let's talk about other guys on this team. Like I do think if I was going to run those guys in a tournament, for me, it's probably, relative to the field, it's still probably Chetty for me. But I would like Isaac Okoro more than I think other people would if he was like 6%. Guy's going to get 30 some odd minutes.
Sure.
Yeah.
I had both of those value wings at a 9. So I mean, if you're, Are you not as high on Ricky Rubio? I love Ricky Rubio tonight with how many minutes he got in the last game.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Ricky Rubio.
Okay.
I think I have him as my best projected Kev. I will go back.
Gotcha.
But I have Ricky Rubio right in. I mean, I actually have all four of these guys pretty close. But I have Osman as the highest, then Rubio, then Okoro, then Wade as guys I want.
Okay.
Then 22 minutes to get them up.
How about the other side of this game? Like, obviously, we're waiting on that starting lineup, possibly some rest news. But you look at Patty Mills, 3-5.
Yeah.
Before that blowout last night, Eddie, he was on pace to play like 40 minutes. And I don't think the field is going to rush back there today. So I have some interest there. And then, a guy like Bruce Brown did just fine for himself in the blowout last night. Guard forward eligible, only 4K. Any interest there, or would you look to spend up on Durant or Harden tonight? Talk to me about Brooklyn.
Yeah, I think all four of those plays are fine. Like Durant finally had an inefficient game. That's one. Like he's been incredibly good this year. Obviously, the prices on Harden and Durant are both over. Did someone say 2? Sure, but
no. I said, dude. He's Durant has been 9 percentage points better than his career average. It's incredible.
Yeah, he's having and there's so many guys having absurd years. Him, DeMar DeRozan, former Spur,
maybe the best year of his career.
It is, and he's 32.
Yeah.
And dealing with I thought he was going to be third fiddle there. I was pretty sure Levine was always going to be first fiddle. People are like, I think Luch takes over. I'm like, I don't think that goes that way. I think that goes the other way.
Yeah.
But DeRozan is not messing the hell around and still a little underpriced. Like I don't mind DeRozan at all tonight. The matchup actually favors him most of anyone on that team. And when you turn Vooch into Tony Bradley and go from, I guess Vooch's average shots this year 14, and Tony Bradley in the last game, for example, took 5. That's even more usage. So
while we're there, let's talk real quick about Portland, because that's some of the news we are waiting on, and obviously that's one of those 2 late games at 10 p.m. Eastern. I think, obviously if Dame is out, you're going to want some CJ McCollum, Anthony Simons. But looking at a guy like Yusuf Nurkic, and the minutes have been extremely frustrating for those who have rostered him. I've recommended him multiple times where I thought he's been in great spots, and he just doesn't seem, throughout his career, he hasn't been a guy that gets a ton of minutes, but it feels like it's been even more volatile this year. But like you said, now it's Tony Bradley. Alize Johnson could get back on the floor with Nurk out there tonight, but at 6'4", with a team that's running that out, do you have interest in Nurkic?
Well, yeah. The good news is there's a real ceiling there. Pretty good matchup, and he's going to be 3% owned in his team. That's all really good. The bad news is, one of the things that we've heard out of Chauncey recently is the fact that he's trying to get more adroit at running small. And one of the reasons Nurk gets yanked is because the opposing teams are doing that. So we recently saw actually tiny minutes out of Nurk because they pulled him and Rocco for Nasser Little and Larry Nance Jr. To close. And that's a real thing. And if you're Chicago, you got a lot better wings, and you don't really like having your center the hell out there anyway when it's Tony Bradley. And they've recently been talking about former Trailblazer Derek Jones Jr. coming in and actually being out there at center for them. And so I think my answer would be, I don't think I would Nurk much, because I think there's a very good chance this game goes small as hell. I think it's a strong likelihood. So I would think these teams collectively play their true centers 26 minutes. Now, Nurk's really goddamn cheap. He's going to be less owned than DeAndre Ayton, for example, at a similar price and position. I don't have any issue with Nurk in a GPP, but you would want to. He's better in a Tony Bradley lineup, believe it or not. He's better in a game in which you correlate other starters. He's obviously better if Damian Lillard sits out, in which case we can add more guys. Because if Lillard plays, Portland has a lot of wing players they like to get on the court. Again, they got Larry Nance Jr., and then Anthony Simons is going to get some time. He's not a wing, he's guard, but you understand what I'm saying. They got Norman Powell. If he's 100% good to go, I expect him to be. He's been a little banged up. Nasser Little's there. Hobbs is going to play a little bit.
Eddie, Garland, Rubio, Okoro, Wade, Ed Davis.
Should have bet me. Garland, Rubio. I expected that. Okoro, Wade. Okay, so right. Okay, so they're just bringing Love off the bench. It's not quite as weird as it sounds, but okay. Let me reproject this fucking team. How much does Ed Davis cost? He must be the floor.
Yeah, it has to be. Let's see.
What the hell are you guys doing?
Yeah, center only for minimum price. I mean, I don't even think last time we saw Ed Davis, he was. I don't even know how many minutes can Ed Davis play at this point in his career.
People always said that Ed Davis can play. Like he can play enough to justify a $3K price tag, and it's.
I feel like he wasn't producing at the same rates like the last couple of years.
He has played 7 minutes this year, so his rates aren't exactly going to be pulling on a giant sample size.
Right, only 51 games over the last 3 years.
So the biggest news to take away from this is actually, I really think Brooklyn's going to rest somebody, and even if they don't, they're probably going to bludgeon the living piss out of them. This is going to be a pretty shitty defensive team. They're going to rebound pretty well. They're big.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they're not big. They're starting Okoro next to Garland because, they're big at the 4 and the 5. They can rebound at the 4 and the 5. They have a big 4. Let's put it that way.
Some other news that came in: Kevin Huerter will actually be available to play for the Hawks. I think a lot of people thought he was going to sit.
They would, with his hammy, I thought that they would keep him out. Yeah. Well, that helps things. You're not trying to be too cute with Cam Reddish. Even without DeAndre Hunter, they're still pretty deep, so you can get away from a lot. In that game, I still like Jason Tatum. At some point, he will make baskets. I don't know if maybe not. He's still $10,000, but there are still if he has a day where he can shoot, I don't know, 50% from the field, he'll score 55 to 65 fantasy points, and he's not going to be really owned. And especially if you're going to run it back with anyone of significance on the Hawks, it's not really a Capella spot for me. I'd rather play John Collins if I had to pick one of them. It's not really a game I'm super looking to target, but Tatum probably the guy I'm most interested in. He's still really underperforming. He's not cheap, but I would rather Tatum than Beal. That's a question someone put forward today. I like the game environment a little more. Atlanta's defense is not that good.
We did get another piece of news that Kevin Porter Jr. unlikely to play for Houston, and Houston taking on fellow cellar dweller. I guess actually I shouldn't say that because OKC was just on a 4-game win streak last week. But two teams that it's tough to play frequently because of how badly they project as a team. Usually double-digit favorites. I might dogs, I should say.
I lock Christian Wood. I'm gonna do some research, but I would have a lot of Christian Wood. I don't want to throw that out there. So lock is a big word, but
but I mean, Eric Gordon also available for this team at 4.6, and Jalen Green is now sub 5K. So in this matchup against the Thunder, and I think the same holds true for Oklahoma City. Kind of a matchup where we can target these guys with a little more confidence than normal. I mean, you've also got guys like, Daniel House is at min price, KJ Martin Jr. Esquire 3.3. I don't know if we have to get that cute with it tonight with how cheap Green and Gordon are and how much we like Wood at 7.7.
These are the only teams that I can actually remember playing each other this year. That I recall. Just because I remember the Thunder beating the piss out of the Lakers a couple times and that cracking me up, but the Rockets beating the piss out of the Thunder. I don't remember the exact score. But they beat the shit out of them, and unsurprisingly, Christian Wood put up, I'm going to say he had 60 DK points in that game. That's a very nice matchup with him. And Kevin Porter was in that game because he had 40 to 50 fantasy points. And Christian Wood actually, his rates go well up when Kevin Porter Jr. is not playing. I like Wood here. They'll try to guard. He'll start at the 4 again. I don't know if they'll start Tice or Alperen Sengun, but whichever way they go with that, you're going to have Wood will get guarded by, I assume he'll get guarded by Darius Bazley again, who guarded him in the last game. That was all kinds of cookies. So, yeah, I would get over the field on Christian Wood. I will reproject him right now and do that whole thing. But KPJ out. My brother going to have a number, but he's going to be one of my favorite plays on the slate now. He's going to be the play on the slate I think will be most under-owned versus where I want him to be. I now have him for 34.5 minutes and 42.5 fantasy points at 7,700. So yeah, center only. That sucks.
Yeah.
But yes, please.
How do you feel about this Milwaukee Lakers game? I know really going off the board here, but Moses Guthrie was in here asking us, do we see 3-point shooting versus Milwaukee still as a good way to attack that team? I mean, the Lakers are pretty big underdogs on the road here in Milwaukee. But he's asking, would a guy like THT, who obviously high ownership, price increasing, but been playing well in his 2 games back, THT, Carmelo, or Wayne Ellington interest you at all against Milwaukee?
Yeah, that's get into my couple notes a bit here. I thought they might change their starting lineup and send Melo to the bench. Maybe maybe move Brow back to the 4 because again the Bucks played pretty big there when they're starting Portis. I assume they'll start Portis again. Mm-hmm. So they're going to start their standard of Westbrook, Jalen Horton, Tucker, Bradley, mm-hmm. Davis, and Melo. Is that the starting 5 for the Lakers?
I believe so. Yes.
Okay. Because that's interesting. Where no one but Anthony Davis can remotely guard Giannis on that team. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting. It's one of the reasons I thought they would go big to not just be like, hey, Brow, just go guard Giannis by yourself for 37 minutes is not the easiest of transactions.
Getting a couple lineups in here. We talked about the Cavs lineup. No surprises in the Pistons lineup. Hayes, Cunningham, Bay, Grant, Stewart. I do want to circle back around on Kade in a minute, but the Pacers will start Brogdon, LeVert, Sabonis, Turner, and Keelan Martin replacing Justin Holiday. Yeah.
That's really, I didn't see that coming. I don't know if I should
that either.
That was not on my radar that Keelan Martin would get the run.
Before last game, he had actually played, I want to say close to 20 minutes.
20 and 25 minutes 2 games ago and 3 games ago. But last game against the Knicks, he went back down to 13 minutes. So I just didn't see him randomly popping the start here.
Yeah.
He's good. What time is it? And what time is that game?
I mean, it's 11 minutes till lock.
Is he in the 7 o'clock?
Yes. Yeah, playing Detroit.
I don't know if Dean Wade was making your ass hurt.
Yeah.
His I've only watched him sparingly. Obviously, he came over between seasons, but with the Pacers last 3 games, he took 8 shots in 13 minutes, 10 shots in 25 minutes, 13 shots in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
If he's starting, I would top of my head project him, if I remember his rates, for something like 27 minutes. Again, something like 27 minutes and 22.5 fantasy points. That's pretty good for 3,200. I think I'm a pretty big Keelan Martin fan. I don't think most people are going to get there.
Yeah.
And playing against Detroit is not the suck either.
No. Well, I feel like he's kind of a borderline 9 or 8 rank. Which side of the fence would you end up on?
I think 9, because one of the things is the ranks are also so the reason I wouldn't go crazy with the 10 on who were we talking about before we were on the line?
Dedmon?
Butler. It was Butler. Is because I think he's roughly appropriately owned. I think Keelan Martin is under-owned. I'm not sure if he's the best value play of the day. I'm going to reproject this a couple times. So give me like 30 seconds. But I don't think he'll be owned as much as he should be relative to these other value plays. So.
Sure. As you do that, Eddie, I want to talk to the people that are tuning in on the YouTube and our Twitter feed, because I know it's not just the subscribers that get to tune into these shows anymore. And maybe, if you haven't been around FTN, you could be struggling with your NBA DFS to start the year. So I would highly encourage you to come join us and check out FTNdaily.com. Our NBA package, Eddie, includes a state-of-the-art optimizer that covers every slate on every day. Got proprietary player and ownership projections from Kyle Murray. That is a mouthful, especially in NFL season, Eddie. But Kyle Murray and Alex Blickel, NBA on-off splits, and our advanced DVP tools, which is one of my favorite aspects of the NBA tools here. The infamous FTN Daily NBA Premium Discord channel that we reference multiple times, and that's where we answer all the questions that our subscribers have. And, of course, the rankings from the two guys on your screen right now, Fast Eddie Fear and myself, every single day. So the pricing here at FTN Daily starts at $49.99 per month. You can see the code scrolling right below us, FTNTV. Use that code for 15% off every month. To repeat, that code is FTNTV, and that equals 15% off every month of your subscription. So if you're not with us yet and you enjoy watching Eddie and me kind of flounder around here next to him, come join us.
That's nice. So I would have believed that if I heard that. That was a very reasonably convincing sales pitch. Like, I'm in.
Speaking of the Discord, Eddie, some questions piling up. We'll get to them here in a minute, especially after you finish running those projections again. But a couple questions.
I slightly oversold it. I have Keelan Martin at 25.5 minutes and 19 3/4 fantasy points.
Okay.
That's still very good for 3,200. There's a bit of guess math here. How long ago did we get the news that he would get the start?
That was 6 minutes ago.
6 minutes ago it came out?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he gets much beyond 10% because I don't think people will know how to grok that. Now, doing this for Rick Carlisle is not we had a saying here for a number of years about the Mavs.
Yeah, fuck the Mavs. I remember it well.
And their rookie usage and preseason usage and summer league usage, and not all of which was under Rick Carlisle, of course, when we're talking about the summer league. But long story short, there are a number of guys who can fill that position, as noted by the fact that they have been doing that every game this year except for this one. So I think 26, 27 minutes was too high of an estimate. I think 24, 23 is right. But $3,200 is still very little. The matchup is outstanding. He's eligible at small and power forward. So I think he's a great play. I don't think he's a super draft play. Basically, to be a super draft play on any sort of large slate when the max is at 2.0, you need to project for 30 to get in the conversation. At least high 20s. Yep. So I can't project him for 30. He projects for 20 fantasy points, which is great for the minimum on DraftKings, but doubled up is not enough on super draft. So no, I would not be interested in Keelan Martin there.
Sure. So let's talk Kade Cunningham. Obviously coming off the best game of his young career here in Detroit, and the price still pretty modest, and his multiplier still elevated 1.5x on SuperDraft, 6.1K on DraftKings, 51.5 DK points last time, Eddie. Indiana's not exactly a tough matchup this year. So you have interest there.
Last year, actually. In fairness,
sure.
Like last year, they were legit fucking bad at defense.
Yeah.
They're not good right now, but Miles Turner stepped their game up a little bit. They're both a little bit better defending the three and a little bit better defending the paint. So they're good. I'm just saying, don't throw shade. They were atrocious. They were the 4th worst defense in the NBA last year. They're like the 8th worst defense in the NBA right now.
Let's hit a couple of these questions. Keelan Martin over Josh Richardson for you? I think I prefer Jay Rich still.
I think I would. I don't know Jaylen Brown. I would play Josh Richardson and cash and Keelan Martin and GPPs between those two guys.
Would you, Anthony asked that again. Never mind. Keelan Martin or Chimezie Metu?
I would play Chimezie Metu and cash and Keelan Martin and GPPs between those two guys. You can. It's really funny because they're such different players, but they are both they're both forwards. They can both be in your forward spot or your utility spot. Chimezie Metu is just power forward. I think Keelan Martin is maybe small in power. I guess maybe they can both be played at power. There, he is small in power. That's not correct.
Yes, correct. Thoughts? Okay, this is a good one, Eddie. Assuming that KPJ is out, and I think he is highly doubtful at this point, not expected to play. Thoughts on a guy like DJ Augustine at min price?
DJ Augustine. Fine. I feel like we're lacking some upside versus a couple of the other things that, we are looking at. Again, I like making a contribution to Christian Wood there. I think I'm going to look at my last run of Houston just to, sorry, I have to, figuring out this rotation whenever they're missing guys is messy, and I got Gordon back in, and see exactly where I rank out this team as far as, so give me another 10 seconds or so. Okay, that's there. Gordon comes back in, takes that. Yeah, I have Wood as by far my favorite play. After that, I'm in a weird mix of Deshaun Tate and Jalen Green. And DJ Augustine, I have playing 19 minutes and scoring 14.5 fantasy points. That's fine. But even taking KPJ out of there, it's not good enough for me. So I don't think I would end up with almost any. Again, maybe someone has a projection higher than mine.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's going to be really interesting to see what Phoenix does with their starting lineup if we don't have it yet, because their starting lineup has been the worst in the NBA at a number of things. They've been terrible. It's the worst offensive unit in the NBA is the Houston Rockets' current starting unit. They're freaking terrible. So they are going to make some sort of change sometime soon, and I think it may very possibly be to that starting lineup. So, but I don't think we've seen it yet.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't seen it either. I think I know the answer from you, but Dean Wade or Keelan Martin? I think you're slightly on Dean Wade in terms of projections.
I mean, I'm going to play Keelan Martin either way because I think he's going to be lower on it. But I think I might have Dean Wade for just a microcosm higher than Keelan Martin, but I will check again. I have Dean Wade now for 21 because he lost half a minute in some rotation I changed. And I have Keyline Pie at 19 and some change. I do have Dean Wade projected higher. I think I would still play Keelan Martin because I think the ownership is lower and I think the upside is a little. I mean, when you look at the way D Wade, I don't think you think upside.
Sure. A little bit higher in the pricing tiers now. Christian Wood or Tyler Hero for you?
Christian Wood. I like Tyler Hero, Rob, but he's going to be appropriately owned. Like Tyler Hero is going to be 35-40% owned and should be. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. But Wood would be more of a priority for me. I just don't think people get there. And I checked in the game he played against the Thunder earlier this year. He had 61. So getting KPJ out of there just sort of minced that for me. Could go wrong, but no back-to-back, no nothing. Like I'm in.
2v2 here, Green and Levine or Beverly and Dame?
Which Green?
Jalen.
We sure?
Unless you're talking Josh Green or Javonte Green.
He probably means Jalen. Yeah, the prices. I would go the first two, the ones that rhyme.
All right. Another 2v2, Porzingis and Garland or Tatum and Osman. And he does have Rubio.
Tatum and Osman.
Would you Jalen Green over Brunson now for the discount?
I would not. I'm fine to play Jalen Green over Brunson. I prefer Brunson as a play to be fully explanatory of what I'm talking about.
I agree. Edwards, DeRozan, Caruso, or Ball, Butler, Talon Horton Tucker?
Again.
Edwards, DeRozan, and Caruso, or Ball, Butler, THT?
First three with Edwards. I like Edwards a fair bit. He's sort of my sneaky guy there who I think fits pretty well.
Harrow and Dort, or Rubio and Halliburton?
Harrow and Dort. Very close. Rubio and Halliburton will project higher for me. I think I go Harrow and Dort. in GPPs, especially because I would have a lot of wood, I think.
Well, we always love when you have a lot of wood, and we are at lock. One last question here before we get into the ownership. Would you Anthony Edwards or Miles Bridges?
I would Anthony Edwards. I think the game environment is much superior. I think actually randomly there's a rebounding upside for him in this matchup. I think Anthony Edwards is someone I sort of sneakily like looking at today. And also, I mean, in fairness, that last question is relevant now because Miles Bridges locked. But for reference, I would have said Anthony Edwards for a number of reasons, including the fact that Miles Bridges locked. Got 9 post-lock games to react to news with, so I don't terribly like Miles Bridges here against a Wizards team whose defense has been surprisingly strident. They're pretty good. Like they're in first place in the East. Like I don't know.
Here you go, Eddie. Nets will start Harden, Mills, Brown, Durant, Griffin. So same 5. No rest news. Maybe some rest news to follow, but none yet.
I mean, if they're starting those guys, which is odd. Okay, well that game should be a hoot to watch. That's going to be really, really interesting. I mean, the best player on the starting 5 for the Cavs is Garland. I mean, Garland's perfectly fine.
Garland gets a lot of respect, I think, in the player circles. From a real life standpoint.
Yeah, people like him. The one reason that I'm always very hesitant to bash Kyrie as much as I want to, and I'm not saying I haven't slapped Kyrie around a little bit, is the other players really respect him. Like a lot of other players they respect him and more his game.
Yeah.
Like his teammates are obviously pissed he's not there, and they're just like, but other players fucking talk about Kyrie's game. And it gives me pause because they're in the room, they're seeing him on the floor, they're trying to guard him. So it always gives me pause when people are like I forget who it was who tweeted the other day that like I will take whatever it was, fucking Magic Johnson, Isaiah Thomas, and Guy. I want to say Jason Kidd as the top 3 point guards all time, and then you can't convince me anyone is better than Kyrie Irving. And I was like, okay, It's interesting, especially point guard is the most fascinating rank me conversation because number 1 is Magic Johnson. If you don't realize that, see your way out of the conversation. But after that, it's really fucking interesting. Like numbers 2 to 13 are insanely close. There's literally no consensus 2 at all. There's like 9 guys you can put up as the number 2. And it's so incrementally close, and there's so many amazing talents playing right now. Like, where do you put Steph? Where do you put Chris Paul? Where do you put Steve Nash and Jay Kidd? Where do you put Bob Cousy? Where do you put there's so many amazing point guards that who you throw number 2 on that particular debate is.
I think Tyreek is correct here, saying that it was Iguodala who said that about Kyrie.
Right, which. Iguodala is a real one, right? Like
Iguodala
doesn't talk bullshit.
Nope.
That's a hell of a statement from a guy who's never played with him. Never played with him. Yep. And played against him in the finals repeatedly. And has been in the league.
Lost to him in the finals.
Lost to him in the finals. Been in the league 15 years. Okay. Like, I do not dismiss that. I'm like, yeah, but he believes in flat earth shit. Like, I don't think he conducts himself very well.
Yeah.
But
there's a lot of stuff he does off the court, too, away from basketball.
He does all kinds of good
really admirable.
He is, like, there's a close line between healthy scrutiny and sounding like a complete wackadoo.
Yeah.
That, unfortunately, he stretches a little far.
Sure.
Like, again, people are like, I don't want to get the vaccine. Okay. It's very reasonable to have a response to, I want to put this shot in you, to be like, let's think about this. That's fine. There's healthy skepticism. The problem is healthy skepticism should then give way to logic and math and science and all those things would say, well, go get a shot. But your first reaction being like, wait, the government's giving out hundreds of millions of shots and I'm supposed to get one? I'm not, give me it. That's fine. That's a very sane, normal reaction to anyone wanting to stick something in your body. I have no problem with your first. So, Kyrie being like, I don't want to whatever. And like, I don't have a problem with someone who hasn't been exposed to overwhelming amounts of math and science being like, world looks flat to me. Okay. The problem is you can disprove that pretty quickly on Google in about 7 minutes. Like, you can come up with a lot of web pages that say, here are the 9 patently obvious fucking ways the earth is round. Eclipses is like, oh yeah, that's a good point. How would that work? Like, there's just shit where it's like, oh yeah, the earth must be round. It takes about 2 minutes. So it's a better idea to look that shit up before, publicly being like, I don't know, is that shit round? Okay, so again, healthy scrutiny. Great, thumbs up. He's got a curious mind. God bless the kid.
Yeah.
May want to, follow through with some more of the math and science, common sense, logic. Having a PR
he can,
advises him well.
Go back to school when you're done playing, or in the off season, something like that.
I don't even need him to go back to school. I'm not a big believer in school, and I got out of school as quickly.
I know you aren't.
But no, I think education should be a lifelong process. I think school is like, I have a beautiful daughter who 16 years old and recovered. I won't say recovered, but has dealt with a lifetime of dealing with special needs, and is an incredible, curious, ambitious, bright, lovely child. I love her more than everything else in the world combined. And she's struggling right now with valence electron configurations and various other chemical things. And the thought has occurred to me once in a while that my beautiful child perhaps will not have a tremendous amount of use for this information in her later life. Now, I believe in education for education's sake, but it's one of those times where it really strikes me like getting through high school and getting through college are really sort of attendance tests. It's like, could you put up with this shit? We can now assume you could show up to a job that's going to get pretty fucking boring 9 to 5 every day for a week. There's, I think you should understand basic chemistry. I think that's great. I think people should be well-rounded. I think kids should read. I think kids should understand the concepts of chemistry, specifically being like, let's work out the 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, 3d6, 3p6, 4s2, 4d10, 4p6, whatever thing that like I still have memorized. I don't know if I'm more than that. So anyhow, there's I do decree occasionally some book learning, but and again, I'm a guy who opened the show reciting T.S. Eliot. I think being a well-read, conceited bastard is a glorious way to go through life, but I'm not sure that should necessarily be enforced on everyone. It's a macrocosmic solution.
So, talking about some different players and not necessarily pertaining to tonight's slate, because I don't think we've got any news outside of the Heat will start Butler, Harrow, Robinson, Tucker, and Dedmon. The Magic will start their same 5: Anthony Suggs, Franz Wagner, Carter Jr., and Bamba. Sugar's asking us, DeMar DeRozan will be like top 40 in all-time scoring. You think he's going to make the Hall of Fame?
That's really close. There's the elusive title.
Yeah.
How many time All-Star? I want to say 1/3 team All NBA. Like it's going to come down to a lot of the weird accolade stuff. That's going to be really close. My gut now would be barely no.
I would also be a no on that. 2 all-league selections, 4 All-Star games. He got a second. I believe that was his last year in Toronto.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Maybe he's a guy that gets in after however many years. How long is the window again for somebody to be elected? Is it 5 years? Yeah, I think it would be a 4th or 5th year thing. And again, he's multiple years away from being done in the league.
Yeah, he's 32 again, so he's going to be productive another 1, 2, 3, 4 years, and around probably 1 or 2 after that. So.
Yeah, and obviously playing the best basketball of his 13-year career at this point.
Yeah, he was 1 and done. So yeah, I think 13 is right on the number.
And we've got Hugo chiming in, who is now Del Griffith's two pillows, saying John Stockton is the greatest of all time, and that's it. Everyone else can be tied for second.
I didn't even put him on my list, and that's an example of he's the all-time NBA leader in possibly assists and steals. I don't know if I'm getting both of those right.
He might still be, yeah.
I think he's the all-time leader in both of those stats, which have something to do with being a good point guard on both ends of the court. But that's why I'm saying the point guard conversation is insanely detailed, where you could make an argument for a lot of guys. And Stockton certainly is the second to 11th best point guard ever. Like longevity count for fucking something, and he played forever at a very high level. So
yeah, nearly 600 steals above Jason Kidd. Chris Paul about 900 short right now, sitting in 5th all time in steals. The aforementioned Andre Iguodala sitting at 21, 9 steals shy of Paul Pierce.
Yeah, I don't know. I honestly don't know who my second best point guard is. I don't know. You can make a very good argument for John Stockton, Chris Paul, Jason Kidd, Isaiah Thomas.
Mm-hmm.
I think are my favorite 4. But you can make reach arguments for about 9 more dudes, which is why it's just it's an incredible, and it's an unwinnable conversation, I guess, is the disappointing thing. Center is really interesting too, because like who was best versus who is best versus their league at the time versus, longevity. Like Shaq is the most dominant modern center there's ever been, but he ate himself into a 10-year career instead of a 15-year one.
Yeah.
Olajuwon was consistently fucking amazing. Wilt was playing 5'7" white guys in empty swimming pools, so like that makes it hard, but was absolutely absurd. Conan the Barbarian style. So I don't know. That's a center is obviously also a very there's about Kareem obviously all-time points scorer, and again longevity for me counts more than I think it does for others. So there's those are the 2 fun ones. Like shooting guard isn't that fun because one is Jordan, 2 is Kobe, and then you have a fun conversation.
And Sugar saying wherever Kidd and Isaiah Thomas are, they're behind Chris Paul.
I agree. I am a big Chris Paul fan. Now, are we judging by titles? Because
clearly Sugar is not.
Right. I think Chris Paul is absolutely outstanding. I think he got very close to 2 different titles. That Rockets team was really, really good. 3 really. I think had a decent chance at, but no title is a fucking thing.
He's the champion of bad injury timing, I think.
Yeah, fucking
hamstring.
Yeah.
Two questions pertaining to the slate. A quick 2v2: Jimmy Butler and D'Angelo Russell, or Tyler Hero and Anthony Edwards. So a Heat and a Wolf in each of those choices.
I think I would go Hero and Edwards. I like being over on it today. We had a good show last time, by the way. I don't know if I did a drop in this week, but it was last Wednesday or whenever you and I were last on the air.
It was Thursday. Yeah, Thursday.
It was
remember
we had a very good
sickness saga.
I had but I had a lot of people check in and be like, that was great. So like Thursday was a really good show. Yeah. I don't know if we covered enough tonight, but that's that's why we have the earlier show. Cover everything.
Yeah, they do. Javi and David.
They do a good job, those boys.
They do. Tyreek chiming in. Did we rank our interest, if any, in the studs? And I'll tell you, Tyreek, if you didn't know, there are rankings.
They're ranking
on the site.
Have features including ranking.
With you, buddy.
What? How are our studs ranked?
Let's see.
How did we end up? I wiggled a couple around. I know you wiggled a couple around.
We'll sort by DK salary. Anthony Davis came in at a 9 alongside Karl Anthony Towns. I think I would prefer to save the 500 and play Karl Anthony Towns there.
I like that game more too. So would I.
Who else? Jimmy Butler, obviously up there.
Should be a 9 or a 10.
He was a 9. Those were the 3 9s up top. Got a lot of 8s. I think Giannis is more, for me, an 8 just because he's 12-5. He's certainly not out of play. If you can work him in, that's just fine.
I think it would still be a 9 for me, just because I still have him barely on DraftKings. He's not my best projected player on on SuperDraft, but I think he's still my highest projected player on DraftKings. It's hard for me to make that an 8. Obviously, at some point it would have to be. Like, I don't want to be farcical about it. There's some number at which his price tag, he has to become an 8. If he costs $16,000, he's not still a 9. Like, you would cripple the rest of your entire goddamn lineup. So there is a point there. I don't know if 12-4 or whatever it is quite.
Yeah, 12-5.
And the fact that they didn't go big, like, I really thought they would, like, I don't know, bring Melo off the bench, start DeAndre Jordan, to have 2 people on the court who he just isn't going to absolutely truck.
Yeah.
And they're in Milwaukee. That game a non-zero blowout risk too, by the way. That game's the Lakers, but they're like 9.5 or something. Yeah, we got a holiday.
9.5.
Yeah. So, like, there's a lot going on there. So I thought that they would game that lift hold bet, try to keep Giannis out of transition a little more. THT can do a little to help with that, but it's going to be a struggle.
I think Jason Tatum might deserve a 9 now that I'm looking at these kind of grouped together at the top.
Yeah, I would have had him at a 9 just because I think he's underowned versus the ceiling. Like, he has a decent shooting game. I like the matchup. Obviously, still no Jaylen Brown, the obvious stuff, but a low 9, but a 9 is where I'd land with him.
Knicks will start their same 5. Walker, Fournier, Barrett, Randall, Mitch, Robinson, Nerlens Noel still out for them.
Interesting. Wonder how long until we can quickly start.
Yeah, got the closing time last game.
He's gonna. Well, I mean, that's the issue with playing any of the Knicks right now. They're an almost unplayable DFS team. Now, everyone's playable at some degree of ownership, and you can play Rose, Fournier, quickly, Mitch, just for like block upside and shit, Randall. And a couple of those guys are a little more inured to the whims of the man whose voice haunts my dreams, Tibbs. But if you haven't listened to Coach Tibbs during a game, or if you really
go YouTube the Taj Get Back.
It's like I can't even do an impression, and I can do some impressions, my friends, and I can't even do it because I don't want to blow out a vocal cord. It's fucking horrifying. It's the shit nightmares are made of. Anyway, he's just, there's multiple games now where he's just like, my bench is playing better. Fuck it, they'll close. None of the starters will play in the last 15 minutes of the game. It's like, that's going to happen every third game. Well, it kind of makes everybody on the team only I'm now way too low owned for my upside GPP kind of guy. And again, it'll keep up in prices will continue to fall. So you'll be looking at $7,900 Julius Randle or $4,300 Derrick Rose or Kemba or Fournier or something. Be like, okay, if this isn't a game where he randomly only plays 22 minutes, this seems like a good price, but it's tough right now. But it's some of being good at DFS is seeing through shit like that. So, like the Nurkic question. Okay, most people who play DFS, even good players, don't really know anything about basketball, and they're just looking at spreadsheets and shit or listening to whatever. And there are teams in which Nurkic has to play a lot, and teams are going to see doesn't. And you don't need him out there against Chicago. So I don't know if today's the day. You can obviously still play him. He could play 25 minutes and score 45 fantasy points, which is fine. It's $6,400. Or he could get 32 minutes. It's possible that it could go that way. But there are matchups where they have to play him if he doesn't get in foul trouble. It's like, oh, okay, now we'll go there. Like it's part-timers like that, guys who have a real role sometimes are outstanding. I'm a big fan.
Josh Okogie ruled out with a back. Russell, Beverly, Edwards, Vanderbilt, Towns are the Minnesota starters.
You can Vanderbilt. Good to see him back on the starters.
Maybe a little bit more time for a guy like Malik Beasley.
Well, what's wrong with Naz Reid? Naz Reid is the guy I want to hear.
I believe he's probable, and he's min price on DraftKings. I think he's a decent punt there. it's tough to prioritize him on such a large slate, but that game is tipped off when?
9.
That's at 7 or 8 Eastern.
8.
Yeah, against Sacramento. So, if you're playing that turbo slate, I think he's a really good punt that should be lower owned with, some of that Houston value there.
Martin, they're saying
Chimezie
4%
Metu.
owned. I'd be excited about my 4% Keelan Martin.
Yeah, especially Eddie when in
ownership run through.
Yeah, I've got it pulled up, and
Go ahead.
Keelan Martin in 4 minutes, 2 points, a rebound, an assist, a steal, and a block, and a turnover, filling up the box score in his first 4 minutes.
He's not tremendous, but he's like a 0.8, 0.85 fantasy point per minute guy I would expect in a great matchup.
Yep.
Who would also probably play in the blowout, and there's just all kinds of good stuff there. And 4%, like the other value plays who rank similarly to him are going to be 29. So let's go Keelan.
Sure.
Yeah, he would have been a big priority for me. So good to see that starting off well. But yeah, getting 30 out of him, you're going to start off on a great foot tonight.
Daniel Gafford, 8 points, 2 boards in 5 minutes. Bradley Beal, 4 assists, 2 boards and a steal with a turnover. LaMelo Ball, 3 points, 2 boards, an assist, and a steal. And those games, only 2 games that tipped off so far. And
how many we have?
Ownership, I believe 3. I'm mistaken. 5, way off there.
5 at 7:30.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we shall stay on and look at news until then. I was going to go because we have, I don't know if you know, there's an FTN stakeholders meeting going on right now, and I have a tiny stake in FTN. So I was going to go take it. I was going to go jump in and get a few minutes of that. But there's 5 games at 7:30. I got to go into the news vault and make sure we don't miss anything. So let's see.
Nas Reed is active. So shout out Anthony and Doug Dubs for letting us know. And whenever you're ready, Eddie, you can take a guess on some of this ownership.
No. What do we have? We have. There's not going to be much. We have Charlotte and
there is not much.
We have Charlotte, Washington, Indiana, and Detroit.
Correct.
I hate doing it badly. This is literally like, okay.
You say that all the time, and then you go into Kyle's ownership projections and you nail it by you're off 0.29.
I've never done that. I'm looking at a list of the players on the 4 teams to not forget the super obvious guys. But I'm looking at rosters, I will admit. You've got me, but I will try to start at the top here. God help us. Okay, let's start with this. Number of players in double digits. Out of all 4 teams, I will say 2. Well, sorry, did you answer?
Yeah, sorry. I didn't know you were going to guess. Yeah, it's 1.
It's 1? Yeah, okay. So this is literally a futile exercise as I try to distinguish between 3% owned and 4% owned, because that's a thing a person can know off the top of their head. Okay, let's go with the one guy who is in double digits owned being... I know it's not Keelan Martin, who is the best play in these 2 games in a related story, if you've been paying attention at home. I will go with Kade Cunningham.
Kade Cunningham, number 1.
Oh, God, I'm so good at my job. I had him at 11.5. I will stick with 11.5% owned.
13.2.
Wow, insane. Can I stop now?
No. You got to go at least. You got to at least complete the podium here.
It's so ridiculous. It's undoable. It's not going to be Kade Cunningham. It is 4%. 2 other people on the podium. Miles Bridges.
He is on the podium. He is 3rd.
Nice. 7.6%.
4.76.
Really? Like, this is what I'm guessing. 1 player between them.
Yep.
Don't think it's a Hornet.
It is not.
It's not going to be a Hornet. I think it's a Pacer.
It is a Pacer.
That isn't enough. I don't have it locked up. I'm just looking at the matchups and being like, people are going to want to target that. Which Pacer? Okay, hold on. I'm narrowing it down here. And my gut says Froggy Pants and not Sabonis because of position and whatever, but it's going to be one of those two. It's going to be Broggy Pants or Sabonis. I'm going to go Broggy Pants number 2. I'm calling it a guess. Lock it in.
Broggy Pants number 4, Sabonis number 5. Yeah.
Sure as shit not just holidays. Levert?
No. Neither of those gentlemen.
Yeah, there's only so many players left here. We're going to run out of pacer soon. It's Miles Turner.
It is not.
It's.
We talked a lot about him.
It's TJ McConnell.
No.
It's Goga Batadze.
No, he's already doing well.
Goga Batadze is doing well?
No. Keelan Martin, number 2.
Someone said he was 4%. You said the other guy was 4.5.
They weren't in the main. Keelan Martin, 7.36%. I'm conspiring with our subscribers to make you look.
Said, like, that's still really good. At 7%, that's still probably about a third to a quarter of equity. You should be 25 or something. So, yeah, that's still an excellent play. Very well done. But yeah, just people won't get that, and that's why I like DFS basketball. There's 1 to 4 days a week where it's just like, oh, you knew something about basketball, just other people didn't have time to like grok it. So like, you know, how many minutes you should play, what team he's gonna pay for, how much other people are gonna own. Like, there's a lot of other people go like, I have good value. Like Keelan Martin will start. I don't want to fuck my shit up with 11 minutes to go, and you get a which should be a better play. The minutes will be interesting. But how's he doing now? Give me a Keelan Martin update. We need a Keelan Martin Chiron. Get rid of this sell FTN thing. Keelan Martin's current score. Just
the update.
Bottom here.
Keelan Martin missed 25-foot jumper. He is at the same stat line.
What?
2, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, and now 1 foul.
Okay.
So still out there and doing things. He did not come out.
He did not come out yet? That's good. So
Sabonis, Brogdon, and Levert came out.
8.25 fantasy points? Really? Those guys came out. Nice. All right, hold on. Let me get back. 7:27. All right, I'm going back in the news tank.
Yeah, a couple of questions as you do. Would you go Dedmon or Mitchell Robinson in tournaments?
I want to play Christian Wood if you're building one line. But past that, I would probably still stick with Dedmon.
I agree.
I think Mitch Robinson is fine to play in tournaments. If you tell me, you know, what else you're playing that could alter my opinion, but I have Dedmon a lot higher, and as we just discussed, trusting the Knicks is an exercise in frustration. So I think more often that I would stick with Dedmon. Obviously, that's going to change, like 1 lineup, 20 lineups, 100 lineups. Like, it's going to have a lot to do with what you're doing. If I had 10 lineups, I would start to have some Mitch. You know, Celtics are interesting. They haven't started yet. Like, they're going to, you know, no Bob Williams. So Horford's going to rotate over to center. So you're going to get some weirdness with probably Grant Williams will get the start at the 4. I don't love that incredibly. But there's a number of ways they can replace. Maybe they start, you know, Neesmith. Maybe more plus time goes to Jay Rich. There's a couple other ways they can run this shit out. But, you know, that's interesting.
With less than a minute to go, any interest in playing Russell and Edwards together?
Yes. I don't find that completely inviolable.
Okoro or Jay Rich?
I would play Okoro.
I agree. THT, Jalen Green, or Tyrese Halliburton and Okoro?
I would play Halliburton and Okoro. I'm fine with THT. It matches up better for him than some of the other.
Would you Jalen Green or THT? I like Jalen Green in tournaments now.
Yeah, I think he's quite good with KPJ out. So generally, I think I would Jalen Green again. I don't think quite as much ownership gets there. If I had Wood, that would temper me a little bit. So very close.
I agree. All right, we are just seconds away from this 5-game 7:30 lock, and there it is. So I will pull up ownership. We'll take a look, and then we'll get out of here.
Okay. I agree to your terms.
My location is being checked, but as soon as that is done, we will we will download the ownership.
You're logged in as someone else.
I'm logged in as myself.
Then how can you check tournament results?
You go to the live page.
You can see the ownership and contests you're not a part of.
Mm-hmm.
You can do that at SuperDraft. We built it in there. It's on the app, actually. I know. Hamburger in the top left. You hit live, and you can pick a sport and pick up whatever.
Yeah. You can also do that on DraftKings, which is where I'm getting this ownership for that $15 GPP. And if you have a guess, well, I downloaded it. It was not updated, so that's fine. We'll do it again.
Metu confirmed starting again, if there was a doubt.
Yeah, so there was kind of an interesting nugget that came out. I don't know if it crossed your screen or not. Apparently, he's going to start 5 games and then, quote, be reassessed. I don't know what's going on there, but also interesting that Marvin Bagley got back into the rotation last game.
Yeah, got 18 minutes. Yeah, they're kind of garbage, and they're not rebounding incredibly well, and they're trying to fix some of those issues, and they talk about rebounding a lot. So, you know, they're going to continue to give him time largely at the 4. He's really a center. Like, one of the reasons he didn't get any time in San Antonio is he's pigeonholed as a center, so they're playing pretty big now, playing him next to Rashawn Holmes. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm ambivalent. I have a lot of guys who can fill that 5th spot. He projected just fine for me. I think it was 3,800. He was understandably very, you know. So I think they were basically saying, hey, stop asking us every game. We want to try some other guys out. We're going to start them as they met 5 games. We're going to see how that goes, get a lot of stats, then we're going to try something else. It's something we do a lot here at SuperDraft, where we try different formats and different, you know, pricing and various things. You can try it for a while and you establish some data, and then you try something else and you compare the two. So they're going to give him 5 starts, and then they'll give someone else 5 starts. Maybe Bagels will get back in there and they'll give him 5 starts.
Well, this ownership is ready to go when you are, sir. We have 2, 4, 6, 7 players above Kade Cunningham.
7 players above Kade Cunningham, huh?
Yes, sir.
All right, I will pull up some rosters and give this a shot. 5. I don't even remember all 5 games offhand. So
Cleveland, Brooklyn, Boston, Atlanta, New Orleans, Miami, Orlando, New York, and the Lakers and Bucks.
This honestly will take me too long. It's 7:33. I'm gonna just have you read it this one time. It's too
alrighty.
The 2 games.
It's kind of interesting. I think a lot of these guys coming in slightly lower owned than we thought. Talon Horton-Tucker got on top of Tyler Hero by 0.19. So both of those guys 37.5% owned.
That's what I said. I said Tyler Hero 35 to 40.
Oh, did you?
So yeah, that's right where I thought he would be. That's right. I didn't think Talon Horton-Tucker would get that high. That's a bit ambitious and a bad matchup. But he's fine. I mean, like, I thought he was going to be in the high 20s, so high 30s I would have missed that.
Dwayne Dedman third at nearly 34% there, followed by Jimmy Butler at 24.
That's exactly. I literally said Jimmy Butler 25, Tyler Hero 35. So I had both of those within a point or two.
Shows how much I'm listening to you when we're
conversing. I know. Like, you've had to listen. This is bloviating. No, sorry. You've had to listen to me pontificate for however many years. I totally understand you putting me out. I have family members who've been doing it for decades. It's understandable. I don't mind.
Chetty Osman coming in 5th at 23%, followed by his teammate Ricky Rubio at 22%, and then Patty Mills in between those 6 and Kade Cunningham at 17%.
Yeah, nothing there terribly scandalously weird.
Yep. Dean Wade 7%, Isaac Okoro 6.5%. You like that?
I like that.
I think, Giannis 6% is
Also,
pretty
I
nice.
think really on the nose what I said. So just pointing out, since
Yeah.
I punted on all the post ownership, the shit I randomly ran out during the show was really close.
Yeah.
That's really the issue. This year where I have 3 hours to throw at this, and last year where I had 9, I would get that deep into every fucking player on the slate. Now I have to focus up a little more on the top third or something. So being like, okay, what's every player on the slate owned? It's a bit of a headache, I'm not gonna lie. But the ones who I expected to be significant, if you roll the show back, I nutted a lot of those.
Cole Anthony 8%, Al Horford 10%. I'm all over the place now. Dennis Schroeder 7. Bruce Brown 5.5. That's not bad. Same with Darius Garland. Only 100 more than Ricky Rubio. Josh Hart still at his middling price tag, 4.5. Not bad. Jason Tatum 4.5. Not bad. Duncan Robinson, although the price is up, he could shoot 15, 16 threes tonight. So that's not bad at 4%. Anthony Davis 4%. Julius Randle 4%. So the ownership really spread out on the studs that just locked. Kevin Durant 3.5. Josh Richardson at 3 is real tasty.
Yeah, that is too low. I thought he was going to be a little bit higher. If I thought he was going to be that, like I had him at 7 or something, but if I thought he was going to be that low for just the time we expect to get, yeah, I would have liked that more. So that's a miss.
And that is going to do it for the ownership. See if anybody played themselves in an outrageous manner. Not that I can find. Yeah, I'm sure there's some in there, sub 0.05 or something like that, but I'm not going to search for it. Let's see. Let's do 2 things before we get out of here. First, would you Halliburton or Nickeil Alexander-Walker in a single entry tournament?
I would probably Halliburton in a single entry tournament. It depends exactly what slate it is. He's been really active in getting to the paint and pushing the lane on. Since he's come back, he's looked really, really good.
Ooh. Daniel House starting. Eric Gordon starting. So Jalen Green, Eric Gordon, Jayshawn Tate, Daniel House, Christian Wood.
Okay. One more time.
Daniel House at Jalen Green,
Gordon.
It's Green, Gordon, Tate, Gordon, House, Green. Christian Wood. I like all of those guys. For their prices?
I think they're all in play. I would have them in order: Wood, Green, Tate, House, Gordon, I think. I do think they will middle the shit out of the minutes on a lot of those wings. Green will get his time. That's why I like him. Wood should get his time. That's why I like him. You're going to deal with a lot of, I would have liked Wood starting at the 4 a little more, I think, which is a rarity because I think I would project him for more time if he started there. You got a couple other guys hanging out there right now, but still like Wood a ton. Yeah, that's how I would rank those guys. I think I would move House's minutes projection, which I had at 18 to 22, which makes him very much in play at the absolute floor, but not like a must-win, most slammed to me. I don't think you're going to randomly pick up 30, 32 minutes of Daniel House here. I do think they middle those wings minutes a hell of a lot.
True. Got the Kings starters too. Kings starting the same unit with Metu in there as we have become accustomed to over the last couple games. JJ Frick was asking about Daniel House, and we gave you some Daniel House talk there. I don't know where Eddie went, but maybe Thomas, you can tell me what happened there. And I agree. Charge up in the chat saying that Eric Gordon is pretty interesting. He can go nuclear, and I was kind of surprised. Maybe there's Eddie.
I hit a wrong button. I did that.
While you were gone, Charge Up was asking or saying that Eric Gordon is pretty interesting to him, and I agree. I was kind of surprised that you had him listed as your 5th favorite in that starting group, but I guess somebody has to be.
They're all.
I like all 5.
like, what does Gordon cost? I had him at like 5,300 in my head.
4.6.
Okay, so that is demonstrably better. I, for some reason, still had him a bit over 5K. Yeah, that at least bump him up to fourth on that estimation for me. I just worry, especially with the nature of the game and against the Thunder. I mean, it's sort of a local rivalry. Yeah, I like all those guys to some degree. I think I like House the least now by a pretty significant margin. The other four, I think, are all under-owned. That's interesting. If you go back and look at the previous game between these two teams this year, like you had whatever it was. I think it was 61 out of Wood and 47 out of KPJ, and you had, I think, the best game of the year by Deshaun Tate, who had 45 or something. And everyone on the Thunder was hot garbage. They ran like 13 men deep, and nobody scored more than 25 DraftKings points. Like the whole team was hot garbage.
Let's see, one more 2v2 before we get out of here. D'Angelo Russell and Darius Bazley, or Tyrese Halliburton and DeAndre Ayton. That is very much the second one for me.
Yeah, very much the second one for me. Not close.
2 and not close, as ChargeUp says, oh God, I may have talked myself into playing Eric Gordon. I don't think it's the worst idea tonight.
I don't think it's the worst idea ever. Like, it's a JPP play. There's a chance he plays 20 minutes. Be careful. But he could play 26 minutes and score 44 fantasy points. I think he's an absolutely perfectly cromulent play.
Sure. Well, I think that's going to do it for us, Eddie.
Okay. You want to sign this off? Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Always a pleasure to be with you, and I know all the people watching feel the same way. So appreciate all of you, who tuned in, whether you're on Twitter, YouTube, or tuning in on ftndaily.com. Again, that code FTNTV, if you haven't joined us yet, is going to give you 15% off our NBA package. And when you join, get in that Discord, tag Eddie and myself. Let us know that we're here, that you're here, because we would love to have you. Any final parting words, Eddie?
No, good time, good show as always. Got to do a little T.S. Eliot and a little Kyrie Irving flat Earth. So there's something for everyone.
Yeah, a solid Wednesday night here on the Live with Fast Eddie Fear show. So for Eddie, I'm Zach. For Thomas, our producer extraordinaire, behind the glass, as always.
Let's get these beats.
Good night.